morning students. Hope you are all fine. Today we are going to see chapter 8 body movements in grade 6 science NCERT book. In our last class we discussed about body movements, skeletal system and parts of skeletal system. Today we are going to see about joints, muscular system. Now we are going to see joints. What is joints? Do you have any idea? Yes, a joint is a place where two or more bones meet. A joint is a place where two or more bones meet. In human body, one bone is connected to the other with the help of joints. In the human body, one bone is connected to the other with the help of joints for the free movement of the body. Joints are the place where two bones meet. You can simply tell joints are the places where two bones meet. The joints in the human body are broadly classified on the basis of their movements. We are classified joints on the basis of their movement. Joints are held together by strong connective tissue. Joints are held together by strong connective tissues called ligaments. We can move our body with the help of joints. Our body has more than 100 joints. They help in the movement of different parts of our body. Our body has more than 100 joints. They help in the movement of different parts of our body. The joints in the human body are broadly classified on their basis of their movements. Immovable joints, slightly movable joints and freely movable joints. Immovable joint. First we are going to see immovable joint. Such joints do not allow movement. These joints are also called fixed joints. Immovable joints also called fixed joints. They are found at place where protection is the main function of the bones. For example, bones of the skull. The skull is the best example for immovable joints. Next one, slightly movable joints. The bone of such joints have an outer covering of cartilage, allowing them to move slightly. They are seen where flexible support is important. For example, joints of backbone. So that one is a slightly movable joint. Next one, freely movable joint. Such joints allow free movement in one or more direction. So in this freely movable joint, it's allow free movement in one or more direction. Their main function is to allow the body to perform a variety of movements. So it's a function of this freely movable joints or allow the body to perform a variety of movement. There are four major types. One is a ball and socket joint. Second one, pivot joint. Third one, hinge joint. And fourth one is gliding joint. First we'll see ball and socket joint. Ball and socket joint. In this joint, one end of a bone is round in shape. In this joint, one end of the bone is round in shape, just like a ball. The other bone is in the shape of a socket. Shape of a socket. The ball-shaped end of the bone fits into the socket-shaped end of another bone. This joint is found in the hip and shoulder. This joint is found in the hip and shoulder. They allow free movements in all directions. It's allow free movements in all direction. So this is a example for freely movable joints. In ball and socket joint, one end of the bone looks like a ball. See this image, one end is look like a ball and another bone is look like a halo. It's called as a socket. So that ball shaped bone fits into a hollow or socket of another bone. The range of movement of this type of joint is 360 degree. So we can move 360 degree in all directions. In all directions. These joints are present in the shoulders and hip. It's a best example for freely movable joints. This is a best example for freely movable joint. One end of the bone like a ball and it fits into a socket of another bone. Socket means it's hollow. So that one end of the bone look like a ball, that one fit into that socket. So we can freely move this joint in a 360 degree. This one is the best example for freely movable joint. This why it's called as a ball and socket joint means, so one end is like a ball, another bones is look like a socket. So it's called as a ball and socket joint. Next one, pivot joint. In this joints, one of the bones end in a rounded or conical surface. One of the bones end in a rounded or conical surface. See that picture. So one end of the bone is end in a rounded or conical surface that fits into a other bone. Fits into the other bone. It allows movement in all direction. It's allow movement in all direction. Such a joint is called pivot joint. Neck joint is the example of pivot joint. Neck joint is an example of the pivot joint. See this picture. That is called as a pivot joint. That red color, noticed the pivot joint. This pivot joint found between the first two vertebrae of the backbone. It's found between the first two vertebrae of the backbone. The skull is connected to first two vertebrae. The skull is connected to first two vertebrae of the backbone with a pivot joint. It allows our head to move sideways, upward and downward. This pivot joint allows our head to move sideways, upward and downwards. In pivot joint, the rounded structure of a bone fits into the ring formed by the other bone. The rounded structure of the bone fits into the ring-shaped bone. The range of movement of this type of joint is circular. By this joint, we can move in a circular way, up and down and side to side. These joints are present between the bones of the skull and the backbone. This joint present between the bones of the skull and the backbone. It's allow movement in all direction, like side to side, upward and downward. Next one, hinge joint. Next one is hinge joint. It's allow movement in one plane or direction. One plane or one direction only. One plane or one direction only. It's allow movement in one direction only. That is up and down or backward and forward. Up and down or backward or forward. Like a hinge of a door, like the hinge of the door. So it's a up and down or backward or forward. Such joints are called hinge joints. Such joints are called hinge joints. It's present in knee. We can move our knee in forward and backward. We can move it in a forward and backward. Next one, finger joints. This one also hinge joint. Next one, elbow. Elbow up and down. Up and down. We can move it in a up and down way. This type of joints we can call it as a hinge joints. This type of joints we call it as a hinge joints. Two bones are molded in each other. Two bones are molded into each other along one side. Molded into each other along one side. The range of movement of this movement of this type of joint is only in one direction, that is up and down or backward and forward. These joints are present in knee and elbow. See, first one is a elbow joint. So we can only move up and down. We can move only up and down in a elbow. See, next one is a knee joint. That one we can only move forward and backward. So these type of joint we called as a hinge joint. We called as a hinge joint. This hinge joint allow the movement of bones in only one direction. It's allow the movement of bones in only one direction. Just like the hinges the door. Hinges in a door. It's found in the knees, elbows, fingers and toes. These all are best example for hinge joints. Next we are going to see gliding joint. Gliding joint. These joints allow side to side as well as backward and forward movement. These joints allow side to side and backward and forward movement. The vertebra in backbone also have gliding joint. The vertebra in backbone also have gliding joint. Wrist and ankle joints are this type of joints only. Wrist and ankle joints also gliding joints. So just move your wrist. What kind of the movements it's shown? Yes. One is a backward and forward movement. Another one is a side to side movement. So just you have to move your wrist side to side and forward and backward. So wrist have a gliding joint. Just you have to move your ankle. That one also give a movement in backward and forward and then side to side. So ankle also have gliding joint. This gliding joint is found in the bones of the wrist and ankle. It also found between any two vertebra of the backbone. It's also found between any two vertebra of backbone. It's allow bones to side and forward and backward motion. These all joints like ball and socket joint, hinge joint, pivot joint, gliding joints, these all are under the category of freely movable joint. It's under the category of freely movable joint. Next we are going to see immovable joint. Next we are going to see immovable joint. Immovable joint is present in the skull. Skull is formed by a number of bones joined tightly together. All its bones are immovable. All its bones are immovable. The skull is the bony structure present in the head. Skull is the bony structure, it's present in the head. The upper part of the skull is made up of 8 bones in the head region that are completely fused. That means completely joined and are immovable. This is the strongest bone. Skull bones are strongest bone. The skull is the bony structure present in the head. The upper part of the skull is made up of 8 bones in the head region that are completely fused, that are completely joined and are immovable. This is the very strongest bone. The skull product the brain. The skull product the brain. Next we'll see difference between types of joints. Difference between types of joints. Fixed joint, slightly movable joint and freely movable joint. These are types of joint. Fixed or immovable joint, slightly movable joint and freely movable joint. These three are types of joint. First we'll see fixed joint. Bones are held together by tough tissues that cannot be stretched. In slightly movable joints, bones are joined by a strong fibrous tissue that can stretch a little. Fixed joint cannot be stretched. Slightly movable joint can stretch a little. Next one, freely movable joint. End of the bones are covered by cartilage. End of the bones are covered by cartilage. Bones are held together by strong stretchable band. Bones are held together by strong stretchable bands. Next point, from flexible joint. No movement is possible as the joints are interlocked. There is no movement in fixed joint. In slightly movable joints, some movement is possible. In slightly movable joint, some movement is possible. Next one, freely movable joint. Movement in various directions are possible. Movement in various directions are possible. Next point, fixed joint present in bones of skull. Immovable joint or fixed joint. Immovable joint or fixed joint is present in the bones of skull. Next one, slightly movable joint present in between the vertebra in the backbone. Slightly movable joint present in between the vertebra in the backbone. Freely movable joint present at the elbow, knee, shoulder, hip, wrist and neck. What are the difference between types of joint? First one, fixed joint cannot be stretched. It cannot be stretched. Slightly movable joint can stretch. And freely movable joint, strong stretchable band. It have a strong stretchable band. There is no movement possible in fixed joint. Some movements are possible in slightly movable joint. Movement in various directions are possible in freely movable joint. Example for fixed joint is skull. Slightly movable joint example is vertebra in the backbone. Freely movable joints present at the elbow, knee, shoulder, hip, wrist and neck. These are difference between types of joints. Next we are going to see difference between types of freely movable joints. Difference between types of freely movable joints. There are 4 types of freely movable joints are there. First one is a ball and socket joint. Second one, pivot joint. Third one, hinge joint. Fourth one is gliding joint. First we'll see ball and socket joint. This one is present in shoulder. So it's called as a shoulder joint. This one, ball and socket joint present in shoulder. So it's called as a shoulder joint. Next one, pivot joint. It's present in neck. So it's called as a neck joint. Skull and the first vertebra, these two are joined together. So it's called as a neck joint. Next one, hinge joint. Elbow joint, knee joint and finger joints. These are example for hinge joint. Next one, gliding joint. Joints between wrist bones and ankle bones. Joints between wrist bones and ankle bones. Next point, ball and socket joint, hip joint. This one present in hip. hip girdle and leg. So this one we call it as a hip joint. Ball like rounded end of the one bone. Ball like rounded end of the one bone fits into the hollow cup. Fits into the hollow cup. It's called as a socket. Ball like rounded end of the one bone fits into the hollow cup. That one is a socket of another bone. Hollow cup of another bone. This one form a ball and socket joint. Next one, pivot joint. Pivot joint. Conical or round end. Conical or round end of the bone fits into the dent of another bone. Conical or round end of one bone fits into the dent of another bone. It's like a pivot. It's called as a pivot joint. See this image. Next one, hinge joint. Bones are attached like hinge of door. Bones are attached like hinge of door. This joint can take heavy loads. These joints can take heavy loads. Next one, gliding joint. Next one, gliding joint. Bones have flattened ends. Bones have flattened ends and merrily glide over each other. Merrily glide over each other. It's found in the bones of the wrist and ankle. Wrist and ankle. It's also found between two vertebrae of the backbone. Vertebra of the backbone. Movement in ball and socket joint. Joint allows rotation movement in all directions. Ball and socket joint allows rotation movement in all directions. Like we move our arm at the shoulder. Next one, pivot joint. Pivot joint. Pivot joint allows up, down, left and right. Pivot joint allows up, down, left and right movement on a central axis. Just like the movement of head on the neck. So pivot joint present in neck. So it's allow movement in up, down, left and right. Next one, gliding joint. Gliding joint allows movement in different direction by gliding. Gliding joints allow movement in different direction by gliding. Gliding means backward and forward. Backward and forward and side to side. These joints are present in the bones of wrist and ankle. These joints are present in the bones of wrist and ankle. These are difference between types of freely movable joints. Ball and socket joint, pivot joint, hinge joint and gliding joint. These four are example for freely movable joints. Ball and socket joint, pivot joint, hinge joint and gliding joint. These all are example for freely movable joints. Next we are going to see muscular system. Muscular system. Bones alone are not capable of moving various body parts. Bones alone are not capable of moving various body parts. They move with the help of muscles. Bones move with the help of muscles. The muscular system is made up of muscles. Skeletal system is made up of bones. Here, muscular system is made up of muscles. The body of an adult has about 650 muscles. Adult has about 650 muscles. The muscles tighten and relax to produce movement. How it's produce movement? Yes. The muscles tighten and relax to produce movement. Muscles are attached to the bones by strong fiber are called tendons. What is tendons? Muscles are attached to the bones by strong fibers called tendons. These fibers become stronger with regular exercise. These fibers become stronger with regular exercise. Students, let me ask a question. How do muscles help us? How do muscles help us? Do you have any idea? Yes. Muscles help to bend our arms. Muscles help to bend our arms and knees. Allow us to inhale air. Allow us to inhale air. Chew our food. Chew our food. And even make our heart beat. It's even make our heart beat. Muscles account for all types of body movements. Muscles account for all types of body movements. Let's see kinds of muscle. There are two types of muscle. One is a voluntary muscle, another one is a involuntary muscle. These are two kinds of muscle. One is a voluntary muscle, another one is a involuntary muscles. First we'll see voluntary muscle. Muscles whose action are under our control. Muscles whose action are under our control are called voluntary muscles. Muscles whose action are under our control. Muscles whose action are under our control are called voluntary muscles. For example, you can throw something with your hand and kick anything with leg. These kind of movements under our control. So we can throw, we can kick. So these are controlled by ourselves. These which are the muscles involved this action are called voluntary muscle. Voluntary muscle. The muscles of arms, legs are in our control. Their cells have bends or stripped on them. That is why they are also called voluntary muscle. They are called voluntary muscle. So, the muscles which are present in our arm and leg, or we call it as a voluntary muscle, because they are under our control, So it's called as a voluntary muscles. Next one, involuntary muscle. Involuntary muscles. Muscles whose movement are not in our control. Muscles whose movement are not in our control are called involuntary muscles. Muscles whose movement are not in our control are called involuntary muscles. The cells of these muscles do not have strips on them, and also they are called smooth muscles, and they are called smooth muscles and involuntary muscles. Involuntary muscles work automatically. Involuntary muscles work automatically. These kinds of muscles can work for a long time. These kinds of muscles can work for a long time without getting tired. Involuntary muscles can work for a long time without getting tired. Muscles of heart, stomach, eyes are involuntary muscles. Muscles of heart, stomach and eyes are involuntary muscles. Muscles whose action are under our control are called voluntary muscles. Muscles whose movement are not in our control are called involuntary muscles. Involuntary muscles are smooth muscles. See, first one is the voluntary muscles. See this picture. First one is the voluntary muscle. It's present in our arm and leg. Next one is the involuntary muscle. These are smooth muscles. They are present in stomach and heart. Next one, cardiac muscles are present in the heart. Cardiac muscles are present in the heart. They make the heart beat. These muscles are special as they are involuntary in function. These muscles are special as they are involuntary in function, but have the structure of voluntary muscles. It's look like a voluntary muscles, but these are a involuntary muscle. These cardiac muscle work continuously without getting tired. So cardiac muscle work continuously without getting tired. Next one, working of muscles. Our body moves because of the action of the muscle. Our body moves because of the action of the muscle. The muscles are made of muscle cells. Muscles are made of muscle cell. The muscle cells are the cell that can contract, that means shorten. Contract means shorten, and relax. Relax means lengthen. The muscle cells are the cells that can contract and relax. Contract means shorten, relax means lengthen. When muscle cells contract, they cause the bones to come close to each other at the joint. When muscle cells contract, they cause the bones to come close to each other at the joint. When the muscle cells relax, they allow bones to straighten. When the muscle cell relax, they allow bones to straighten. See, first image is straightened bones. So it's in a relaxed, the muscle cells are in a relaxed position. And second one is a contract position. It's a shorten. Bones come close to each other. The muscle work in pair to allow movement. For example, see this picture. Biceps and triceps are the two muscles that move your lower arm in an up and down direction. Biceps and triceps are the two muscles that move your lower arm in an up and down direction. When you bend our hand at the elbow, the muscles in front called biceps. Listen, when we bend, just do it. Just you have to bend your hand at the elbow. The muscles in front called biceps. This one contracts and get shorter. While the other one at back called triceps. This one relax and get longer. This one get relaxed, triceps get relaxed and get longer. This help in raising the arm. When you want to lower the arm, the reverse happen. What is that? Yes, the tricep at the back contract and the biceps relaxes. Understood? Student, do you know one thing? The muscles can only pull and cannot push. The muscles can only pull and cannot push. To bring both movements at the joints of pulling and pushing. Two muscles work together to move bone. Next one, cartilage. Next one, cartilage. Student, try to feel your ear and nose. Try to feel your ear and nose. You will find that the ear and nose are very flexible, isn't it? You will find that the ear and nose are very flexible and not as hard as our bone. Compare with our bones, it's not very hard. They are made up of another tissue called cartilage. They are made up of another tissue or called cartilage. Cartilage is a flexible tissue that is present in the external ear, nose, voice box and at the end of the bones in our body. So these cartilage are present in our ear, nose, voice box and the end of the bones in your body. Next one, bones and x-rays. Take an old x-ray report, student. Just take an old x-ray report or yours or any of your family members and observe the image in the report against the light. Just observe the image in the report against the light. What do you see? What does it present from what you have learned earlier in this chapter? What is that one? S. Bones. We can see bones in the X-ray. X-rays are the ray that can pass through muscles and tissues but not through bones. X-ray, that the ray can pass through muscles and tissues but not through bones. Therefore, they are used to obtain image that show the shape of the bone in our bodies. So this one used to obtain image that shows shape of the bones in our bodies. By looking at an X-ray image, a doctor can decide whether bone has been injured and or not. By using this X-ray, the doctor give appropriate treatment. So, the X-ray or the rays that can pass through muscles and tissue but not through bones. By this X-ray, doctor give appropriate treatment to us. Okay students, today we discussed about joints. What are the types of joints? Yes, movable joint and immovable joint. And then we discussed about muscular system and cartilage. So students, read these topics in your NCERT book. We will see remaining topics from this lesson in our next class. Stay home, stay safe. Thank you students.